So are we ready to start? Okay, well, everybody, welcome. This is the 7th annual Pie Rivers Partnership Annual Meeting. And thank you all for coming. And thank you to the Ipswich River Watershed Association and their staff for helping to coordinate this meeting. And also thank you to the Parker River National Wildlife Center for this fabulous venue. And again, thank you all for coming. So Pie Rivers, the Parker, the Ipswich, and the Essex Rivers, together PIE, make the Pie Rivers. And they all empty into the Great Marsh, so they are connected ecologically and geographically. The Pie Rivers Partnership consists of people like you working together to protect, restore, and manage the Pie Rivers using a regional watershed approach. This regional watershed-centered approach facilitates planning, coordination, and communication on issues that that transcend one municipality across municipal borders, that involve multiple stakeholders, and that are regional in scope. And it also, by working together, it makes possible grant opportunities that individual entities working alone would not realistically be able to access. So that's a brief introduction to Pie Rivers. Here's the agenda for today. After a brief update on the activities of the Pie River Partnership, Professor Rob Stevenson of UMass Boston will give us his observations on drought in the Parker River. And he'll be followed by Cece Gerstenbacher from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, who will be talking about efforts to revise municipal bylaws to enhance sustainability. We'll have a short break around 10:30. And then Ann Witzig and George Comiskey from the Parker River Parker River Watershed Association will be talking about monitoring water quality in the Pie River basins. And finally, rounding out our program will be Peter Phippen from the Mass Bay National Estuary Partnership, and also from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. And he'll be talking about a project on Apple Street in the town of Essex, the roadbed elevation and culvert replacement project. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. It's going to be an interesting morning. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Erin Bonnie Casey, who will be giving us a brief update.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm Erin Bonnie Casey. I'm the new-ish Planning and Resiliency Program Manager with the Ipswich River Watershed Association. And as part of that role, I also administer the Pie Rivers Partnership. So I am the one who sends all those email reminders and e-news and updates our website. And if there's anything, I'll just put this out there that you would like to share on the Pie Rivers website, feel free to email me and I'd be happy to update that. So I just wanted to offer a quick overview of what some of the Pie Rivers partners have been up to over the course of the past year. The Pie Rivers Partnership implementation plans are organized into these 4 kind of working groups, and our priority actions are pursued. They fall into one of these 4 buckets. And so that's kind of how I'm going to talk about what's been going on over the past year. It's also a little bit how our presentations are organized this year. So each of the presentations speaks to kind of one of these major issues facing our rivers. So the first goal is river and stream continuity, and the areas of focus there is the removal or mediation of aquatic barriers to promote migration and flow in the rivers. I'm going to look at my notes because my colleagues at ARWA actually helped me with all of these updates. So let's see, progress has been made on all of the most critical stream barriers in the Pie Rivers region, including the Larkin Dam on the Parker River and the Ipswich Mills and South Middleton dams on the Ipswich River. The past year has seen a historic amount of state and federal money dedicated to addressing priority bridges, culverts, and dams. This funding will go a long way in advancing the stream continuity implementation plan, which identifies the importance of working with our region's municipalities to increase the pace and scale of these projects. And IRWA is also really excited that we're able to announce that we were recently awarded a $1 million grant from a private foundation to advance this barrier work. And that grant will contribute up to a 25% cash match to priority barrier projects in the PI region. This work or this grant is a direct result of the prior PI Rivers foundational work on stream continuity and barriers, which got the funders' attention, such as the Great Marsh Barriers Assessment and the Great Marsh Barrier Mitigation Report. And if we are successful and can demonstrate additional need, there may be more money where this came from. So it's a great incentive for our PI partners to tee up more projects along these lines. On the water conservation front, obviously, water conservation is a huge issue in this area. All of our rivers and streams are overdrawn. The overarching goals for water conservation are to incentivize water conservation through both kind of legal and regulatory mechanisms, as well as public outreach to educate people about the need for water conservation and provide our towns with those stewardship tools. And over the past year, PI partners have been supporting the North Shore Water Supply Resiliency Task Force. The charter agreement for that task force was signed this fall. It's participating in a study to identify the best way forward to secure water supplies for both humans and the environment going forward. There's a Hamilton Water Management Act study that's ongoing. There's a study being done by the MWRA on expansion to North Shore towns. And hopefully over the next few months, we'll start to get some answers about what the options for securing additional water supplies in the future will look like. PI partners are also participating in ongoing meetings with DEP and water resource commissioners to reform how the state withdrawal permits are issued in level 4 and 5 sub-basins throughout the PI Rivers regions. And we also, and I know many people in this room have participated in advocacy efforts to change registrations and pass a drought bill in Massachusetts to amend some of our archaic drought management tools. Water quality management, I'm going to just touch very briefly on because you're going to be hearing more about this in one of our later presentations. But the Ipswich River Watershed Association and the Parker River Clean Water Association has been working closely together with the support of some grant funding to expand monitoring throughout the 3 rivers and developing data management and analysis tools to make that data usable and readily available to the public and practitioners throughout the region. And then on the land use front, much of this work over the past year has been focused on improving land use bylaws. And you're going to be hearing much more about this again from another presentation from Cece. So I'll just give you a very brief overview, but PI partners received 2 significant grants to review and revise bylaws. The first was an MS4 municipal assistance grant, which enabled the analysis of bylaws across 30 of the North Shore towns as to how effective the existing bylaws are at facilitating low impact development. And the second grant from the EEA allows partners to work on implementing some of the recommended changes that came out of that original analysis across 4 towns in the region. And I also know that many PI Rivers partners at individual towns are working independently on bylaw revisions and reviews. It's tedious and thankless work, but it's really critical in enabling us to make good land use decisions that ultimately protect our local rivers. And that kind of wraps up my highlight reel for the partnership's work this past year. Today's agenda includes a lot of opportunities to ask questions and offer comments about the work that's being done. And I will also note that each one of these 4 implementation plans operates under a list of priority actions, and our current list of priority actions runs through the end of 2022, which is now. So what we're really thinking about and what we would encourage everyone to think about over the course of this conversation is what should the PI Rivers Partnership priority actions be over the next 2 or 3 years. and what can we tackle kind of in the near and medium term to protect the health of our watersheds. So thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Rob Stevenson to talk about drought in the Parker.
So questions will be later.
You can ask questions now. We can go. Yeah, sure.
So Josh Brown talks to the planning board, but also the East chapter of TU. During COVID, we kind of let it slide, but prior to that, there was a lot of conversation with the state's 40B laws that basically allows the state to override development zoning at the local level.
Yes.
And most often it's harmful. I've seen projects on many of our water streams, and we don't have anything to say about it. It is high, or can we do something to lobby the state to get these things changed? I think this is critically important up here in the north.
The way the 40B regulation works is that it does provide a bypass around local zoning requirements. It doesn't provide a bypass around the state wetland protection requirements. So many towns have bylaws that are more stringent than the state wetland protection regulations. So those are also bypassed, unfortunately, but the state wetland protection regs are still in effect and can be reviewed for those projects. So there probably is something that can be done, and maybe that's something that we can talk about at the end of the program when we get into next steps.